The four movies I watched were School of Rock, Clueless, Karate Kid, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Throughout the various readings, it highlighted that the main body of teachers is women. Since the late 18th century, education has slowly transitioned from male to female-centric, and so I thought it would be interesting to highlight mainly male teachers in this assignment, away from the feminine light. In reading 3, it talked about how the number of men in the workforce are significantly decreasing. So I thought it would be interesting to see if they would paint them as more capable or less capable as opposed to the traditional female teacher. In all of my movies, they were not all painted in the same way. In School of Rock, it was very much Jack Black being undercertified. In no way was he supposed to have this job, but he took it. And along the way, with compassion for his students and with a real desire to see them succeed for selfish reasons in the beginning, he employs actual teaching methods. He starts to give lectures, he gives history lessons about rock, he starts to do all of these things and really starts to invest in these children's education. Originally painted as the clown or the fool, he builds his rapport with the students and builds his actual credibility in something that he knows about and begins to really see these students shine. All of the teachers had something to learn from the students. Jack Black in School of Rock had to learn responsibility, had to learn adulthood, and he also had to learn that being an adult doesn't mean giving up your dreams. A lot of the teachers were painted as bored with their lives, very dull, like one of the classroom teachers in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He starts to lecture to the kids. Some of them are asleep on the desk, drooling, playing with their pencils. He even asks questions with no expectation of a response from the students, and that is not education. And that is something that I find is very frequent in a lot of movies, that adults or teachers or anyone being responsible gives up on their dreams, and Jack Black kind of challenges that. And the two principals in the movies that I watched between School of Rock and also Ferris Bueller's Day Off were both strict. They were disciplinarians. They were very according to the rules. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he was out to get the students. He didn't care about education or the root of why the kids were there. He very much wanted to get Ferris. He wanted to stick it where it counted. But in School of Rock, the principal just didn't know how to connect to the kids. She was one of the people that, she used to be fun. She says this in a drunken ramble. She used to be fun. She used to not worry so much or be so uptight, but the responsibilities weighed her down. A lot of these teachers have chunks of things from everyday teachers in real life. They follow the rules. They have students' best interests at heart. They don't want people to take advantage of the system, but it was very highlighted caricatures of what real teachers are. In Clueless, the teachers were actually a little bit more realistic. They taught in a way that was engaging. They supported students in their weird ways and their weird antics and ramblings, but they also had things to say. The way in which that these two teachers had something to learn from the students was that they were socially strange. And so Cher thought that in their strictness and her lack of good grades was related to the fact that they weren't happy and that they were miserable because they're a teacher. What kind of life is that? So when she put them together, they started to become happy. They had weekends off with no homework. People's grades were improving. And I thought that was really interesting because these teachers seemed very level. They seemed the most realistic out of all the movies that I watched. But they still changed. They didn't know how to interact in a way with respect dating, in a way that was conducive to their real life. In Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi was a very level-headed teacher. He was the kind of teacher who, his teaching methods, you don't always understand why you're doing what you're doing. You don't always understand the base, but in the end, you get to the point you want. In all of the movies, the teachers needed to learn a sense of balance. Jack Black was very much on the child side of life. He didn't really understand what it meant to be an adult. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, his thing that he is trying to teach his friend is balance in life. And that was something that the principal could have learned as well. I mean, he went crazy trying to catch Ferris Bueller, even trying to break into their house. In Clueless, the sense of balance was personal and work life. And also in Karate Kid, the balance for Mr. Miyagi that he needed to learn from Daniel was balancing his past and his present. He had a very painful past relating to Japanese concentration camp, and you can tell in the scene that he's very drunk that he holds on to these things. And it was interesting to see the relationship form, but a very deep friendship, a long-lasting bond. I think all of these things are very realistic in the sense that teachers can be portrayed as these things, but in a lot of these movies it's all exaggerated for the sense of plot or for the sense of comedic value. Now, Mr. Miyagi was the only teacher that was a person of color, and he used his background as a way to teach, which very much does represent real life. I mean, diversity in schools is a huge issue. A lot of races and ethnicities and cultures are very underrepresented in schools. And so I thought it was interesting that the only teacher of color was a handyman who is teaching from his past, has no certification, and is not in a classroom setting. After reading the articles and rewatching these videos, the main thing I took away was that teachers are always represented in an exaggerated light, and that often the source of wisdom will come from students.